So if I make $50,000 a year and I'm doing the loan in my name and my spouse makes $50,000 a year and they're not on my loan, I make too much because it looks at the whole household. Hometown Heroes.
Well, and before you move on, Sarah, we've talked about this before where that down payment assistance is available for the lower income households.
Right.
But the problem is you still have to qualify based on your debt to income ratio.
Right.
Welcome to Tampa Home Talk with your host, native Tampa real estate girl, Katrina Madewell, a full-time, passionate, out-of-the-box thinker, love for home ownership kind of realtor with over 21 years of combined mortgage and real estate experience. Tune in every week at this time for expert advice on everything you need to know about home ownership, finance, maintaining great credit, building wealth, and making your everyday life better, and how you can be financially successful today and tomorrow. Remember, love where you live or let Katrina fix it. Now, here's your host of Tampa Home Talk, Katrina Madewell.
Hey, it's a beautiful day in Tampa Bay. I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. You are listening to Tampa Home Talk. And in the studio today, we have Sarah Nair with the mortgage firm. That always trips me up when I have to change your name. Official show partner of Tampa Home Talk. And today we are going to talk about one of my favorite things, money. And the money you are going to be able to get to buy a home, especially some of our young first-time home buyers, which, by the way, I should have pulled these stats, but the average age has significantly increased for the first-time home buyer range. So I'm hoping with programs like the one we're going to talk about today, Hometown Heroes, we get more of those younger first-time home buyers in the market to buy their first home. Because literally the first-time home buyer age, I feel like it shot up to close to 40 years old. I don't have the stats with me, Sarah, but I know that number has jumped significantly in the last 5 years. So today, let's chat about Hometown Heroes. This is a program that's been around since a little after COVID, probably 3 or 4 years now.
Right.
And it's where the state of Florida replenished some money, which hopefully it came from the Sadowski Fund, but in any case, they replenished some money that went back into our communities that were always considered essential.
Right.
Never had the opportunity to work from home. It started out with these folks, and then that list got expanded on who could qualify to be what we call a hometown hero. And so this money gets gobbled up pretty quickly because there's some amazing things about this home loan program, which we'll probably start there, Sarah.
Yeah.
And then we'll venture into who qualifies for it, how much can you get, when is the money available, and all of that super fun stuff. So welcome back to the show, my friend.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
So let's talk about, first of all, Hometown Heroes. And what are some of the great products? Because this differs from some other down payment assistance programs out there. And in my opinion, I know your opinion too, it's one of the better programs available. So talk about some of the things that makes this a little better or unique or different for someone getting down payment assistance, or even from someone maybe just getting a gift to buy their first home.
So Hometown Heroes is, in my opinion, by far the best down payment assistance program. It's administered by Florida Housing. It's going to be replenished July 13th, everybody. So 50 million will be in play.
How long do you think it'll take that 50 million to be gobbled up?
Honestly,
90, 120?
I'm going to say definitely less than 6 months.
Okay.
You know? And what happens is, every loan officer that's approved to reserve hometown funds for their Hometown Heroes funds for their buyer.
And not everybody is.
Not
But
everybody
Sarah
is.
and the mortgage firm, you guys are.
Not everybody is, but for loan officers that reserve funds for their borrowers, let's say something goes wrong in the contract. There's a property condition issue, there's a qualifying issue, and the loan doesn't close, but the funds are reserved. When the funds are depleted, all of those loans that can't or don't close will be canceled, and those funds will go back into the pot, so to speak. So it will be what's called a wait list. So there will be an opportunity to grab a little money here, a little money there. But you don't want to bet the farm on that because there's no crystal ball. I don't want to call it the lottery, but it's a wait list. So
there's always fall through money.
There's always fall through
We
money.
never know how much or how long it's going to be available.
Yeah.
And it typically gets snatched up pretty quick, right? Once the funds are depleted.
Correct. And what makes it so fantastic is that the Florida Housing sets the interest rate, and you only need a 640 credit score to get into that program.
So lower credit score requirements.
Right. Lower credit score requirement. The rate is set, like I said, by Florida Housing. So whether you have a 780 credit score or a 640 credit score, you're getting the same interest rate. But the point is that interest rate is typically lower than what a retail rate would be. And
So they're better than even FHA, which has pretty competitive rates.
correct. Hometown Heroes today on the wait list, this isn't the new money coming in, but today's wait list is at 6.25%. And if you're a lower wage earner and you use a different version of Hometown Heroes, it's 6%. And so there's no cost to that rate. So it's a great program for that reason.
Now, when Sarah says there's no cost to the rate, to give you an idea, and I know you're not looking at pricing, but so to give you an idea, like in a regular, in a conventional or an FHA loan, in order to get that same rate, right, on a competitive product that's not a Hometown
You would be
Heroes,
paying points.
you would be paying money to get that same rate.
Correct. That's correct.
So that's what she means by no cost to the rate.
Yeah. So it's great. And what Hometown Heroes will do is it will give you 5% of your loan amount, not your purchase price, your loan amount, up to $35,000. So there is no purchase price limit. You could buy a $500,000 house and get Hometown Heroes, just like you could buy a $200,000 house and pick up Hometown Heroes. And 5% based on, $190,000 loan is going to be less than 10, but you're guaranteed at least 10.
Okay.
So you're gonna be able to get anywhere from 10 to a maximum of 35,000 in assistance. It is a 0% interest rate, no payment due loan. So basically what that means, guys, is it's a silent second. It just sits there behind your first mortgage.
We're giving you the money.
You're using their money for free. No payment due until. And the until is if you sell.
Or refinance.
There are three.
They might subordinate it.
So there's three.
Yeah.
So if you sell, they're going to be paid off just like if you had a home equity line of credit, any second mortgage. They're going to be paid off at close because guess what? That money goes back into the fund to help the next first-time home buyer.
Yeah, which I love that they do that, by the way.
If you refinance, okay, their rate is great today compared to current retail rates, but let's say you can get to 4.5. You're going to want to refinance your loan.
Right.
When you do, that will be paid off in your refinance transaction. The third instance where repayment would be due is if you cease to occupy it. This program is designed for first-time home buyers. So if you sneak in and buy to own or occupy and 6 months later you say, I'm going to be a landlord and rent
married, I'm moving out and now I'm going to rent my house.
You know what? And life changes, right? So if something changes and you cease to occupy it and they figure that out, they will call that note and expect to be repaid.
Now, are they watching the homestead exemption and that kind of stuff to see?
That would be the way they would know.
That's what I would think. Okay.
Yeah, you're exactly right. So
they're going to ask for repayment on that within a certain.
It's never forgivable, but you're using their money for free until, and people love it for that reason because no interest is accruing, zero.
So, and let me just put this in perspective. So before you're like, oh, it's a loan, it's not really down payment assistance. It actually is down payment assistance. And in my book, I talk about the significant difference in a net worth between a renter and a homeowner, and they're significant. And so people that own their home by far have a larger net worth, meaning that spread on their equity, because you got to make a housing payment anywhere you live.
Right.
Your value goes up over time and your balance goes down as you make those payments every single month.
Right. Yeah. And so this, another great feature about this program is it has a very high income limit. So a lot of the down payment assistance programs that are county specific, like Pasco County, if you're going into a specific county, are going to have substantially lower income limits. And it's going to look at the entire household. So if I make $50,000 a year and I'm doing the loan in my name and my spouse makes $50,000 a year and they're not on my loan, I make too much because it looks at the whole household. Hometown Heroes.
Well, and before you move on, Sarah, we've talked about this before where that down payment assistance is available for the lower income households.
Right.
But the problem is you still have to qualify based on your debt to income ratio.
Right.
So yes, it's available, but they don't qualify because of the debt ratios.
Well, they don't qualify because of the debt ratio. But guess what? Even if they did qualify because of the debt ratio, because it is for such a low income buyer, what type of inventory are they going to have for which to even shop?
All of it.
Yeah.
If you can even find a house, right, in their price range.
Right. So the Hometown Heroes TBA program and the Hometown Heroes bond works a little different, but the TBA I think is the flagship product. That program only looks at the applicant and it has a very high income limit. I want to say in Hillsborough County right now, based on 2025, it's $156,450.
That's pretty big. And it's not the whole household.
And it's not the whole household. So I could make $140,000 a year and try to qualify for a $400,000 house. My spouse could make the same and I can still get Hometown Heroes. So that's what makes it a really attractive program.
Which is crazy. We know a lot of you guys out there are not making that kind of money. And if you are, you probably already own your home. But, I would say if you're, anybody that wants to obtain home ownership can, right? I think that's a fair statement to make.
Yeah. So, co-signers. let's say that I'm not a big household and I want to spend $350 and I make $70,000 a year, but I have a car payment and I'm just shy of qualifying to get that Hometown Heroes money. Co-signers are allowed in the Hometown Heroes program. Now, the income of the co-signer is considered along with the income of the applicant in the TVA program. So you still can't exceed that $156,450, but we absolutely can add a co-signer to the file.
And sometimes it's easier just to like pay off the car or whatever and qualify that way.
So we have a lot of flexibility there. We have a lot of options there. One of the nuances of Hometown Heroes is that you must be a full-time employee working in the state of Florida for brick and mortar.
Okay.
So maybe
You
I
have to have a building. You can't be virtual.
talk about that.
Okay.
You can be hybrid,
Okay.
not be remote.
Okay.
So they want you working for brick and mortar. Okay. So let's say that I work for Amazon.
Okay.
And I work in Florida at an Amazon building, but my pay stub has their corporate address in another state.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to
Which
have
is highly possible.
It's always possible.
Yeah.
I'm going to be going another level of documentation deeper to prove that you're working for brick and mortar full time in the state of Florida. So, that's how that works. Remote employees, they get to work from home 24/7, don't qualify.
Wow.
Hybrid do. And what hybrid means is that I get to work remote, but I got to be in the office 3 days a week. That's the difference between remote and hybrid. And hybrid are allowed. If you're
there's a lot of that since COVID. A lot of people, they still are in that hybrid.
Yeah. So if you're self-employed, you can qualify. And we're going to talk next about what occupations qualify.
Yeah.
But let's say you're self-employed in a qualifying occupation. How do we prove it? We document it with 1099s. We document it with letters from your CPA, a third-party tax preparer. So if you are in a qualifying occupation, just know that we're going to have to go that next level of being able to verify with a third party. We can't just take a self-prepared return and run with it type of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So who qualifies?
Yeah. That's the $1 million question because this has changed.
So the misconception
Every single time they've done it, they've changed.
Well, and at one point they removed the occupation list altogether. The occupation list is back. We will not see 2026 criteria for if they've made a change to the occupation list or the income limit or any other nuance of the underwriting guideline until the money is available.
Oh,
so right now,
so some of this may change.
Right. So what we're doing right now as the lenders, we're underwriting all files according to the 2025 guidelines. That way they are good to go, cleaned up. It's as much done as possible on them. And then as soon as the new guides come out, we'll go behind them all and just see if any little thing needs to be tweaked or changed.
So some people are getting qualified for this right now, just waiting on the money, and they can make application and go under contract even before?
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
They just cannot close until the funds can be reserved.
Which is
after the 13th of July.
13th.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, some of the misconceptions on the occupation list are, well, I've got to be a doctor. I've got to be a nurse. I've got to be a police officer. And yes, there is an occupation list, but it actually is pretty flexible occupation list. So I'm just going to run through like most of what occupations qualify. Public safety workers. So if you're a probation officer, a police officer, a correctional officer for the jail, you can qualify. Court employees. Okay, clerks of court, people like that can qualify. Childcare workers. If you're working for a licensed daycare, not a childcare worker out of your house, that would be an example of self-employment.
Not a nanny at home.
You have to be licensed, number one. And if you're working for a licensed daycare facility, you're going to qualify. The military, obviously. Veterans and active duty.
I love that our military people are qualifying.
Yeah, and we're going to touch on that as well. Don't let me forget to talk about first-time homebuyer rules and things like that. Yeah. First responders, obviously, EMTs, paramedics, firefighters, people like that. Yeah. School staff. Obviously, a teacher is going to qualify, right? But so will the person that works in the front office of the school. So will the person that works in the cafeteria of the school. Yeah. So it's going to give you
because they work for the school system.
Correct. Now, on that note, it needs to be a K through 12 school, magnet, private, public school.
Charter, anything like that.
Yeah. So on that note, we talked about how childcare workers qualify and how if you work for a school, it qualifies. Well, I'll give you a scenario. I had a client. She said, I'm a teacher. I said, great. Where do you teach? Well, I teach at this private school. Okay. Well, what do you teach? Well, we teach just 2-year-olds through 4-year-olds. That's what we teach. And mind you, she's a teacher. It's a licensed facility, but it's not K through 12. So she didn't fit in the teacher box of schools. What she did fit in was the childcare box because they're a licensed facility. So she was able to get the funds that way. Okay. So those are just examples. Healthcare workers, obviously, if you work for a hospital, an assisted living facility, a mental health facility, you're going to qualify. If you work for a hospital and you're the custodian, or again, you work the front desk, or you're in administration, or in the cafeteria, you're going to qualify.
This might be a good example where, like, say someone is a counselor, right?
Yep.
And they're an independent practice, self-employed. They might be a great match for something like this.
You're a licensed business at that point. We're going to be able to verify.
Got it.
Yeah, exactly.
What other occupations are on that list that might surprise people that they're eligible for this money?
Well, again, I'll need to see how the new list changes, but you could be a vet tech, for a veterinarian, and it would fit. A lot of people, again, didn't think that, someone working for a licensed daycare would qualify, but it does.
Over the last several years, have you seen any folks that are, whatever the occupation is, not qualify for this when you thought maybe they might initially? Have you run into that?
Not really.
They do.
Not really.
Okay.
Because Florida Housing is fantastic. They put a lot of information in our laps, and they have a great resource for support. So if I have just one little weird question, I can shoot an email to the administrators and get a very fast answer.
What about like a retail worker or a lawn care worker? Do any of these people qualify? No.
There are other programs where they will, and we'll do that in the next segment. But this is just specific to Hometown Heroes. The other thing that I wanted to touch base on is you've got to be a first-time home buyer. So what is the definition? We talk about this every time. Who is a first-time home buyer?
Doesn't necessarily mean that you've never owned a home before.
Correct. It doesn't necessarily mean you can't own a home now. A first-time home buyer is anyone that has not owned a primary residence in the last 3 years.
So talk about that when you say anybody has not owned a home in the last 3 years, yet they still own a home.
But the key word is not that they didn't own a home, it's that they didn't own a primary residence.
Okay.
So I inherited a property, for example, from my aunt in Kentucky. She left it to me. I'm on the deed. I own it. Never lived in it. It hasn't been my primary, but it is real estate that I own. That's an example. I'm actually a renter. I am a first-time home buyer. Okay. So that's an example of a first-time home buyer.
A divorce situation, because we've seen a lot of things in recent
and that's
years
where we do go. Yeah.
You get these low rates and they're like,
Right.
I'm not refinancing.
Right.
Their divorce decree says, yeah, the spouse has the house and you haven't lived there for them.
Right. Yeah. And those are scenarios that we actually do go directly to them for. They're not rigid in that respect. We will spell out the scenario. Hey, this couple is divorcing. The spouse has to go buy a new primary. This was their primary and now they are leaving. That would be an example of a situation where we would ask for an exception, or in terms of what you just said. I already moved out 3 years ago.
Yeah.
I've just been stuck on this deed.
Yeah. And I've been renting.
Correct.
3 years.
So those are scenarios that we will go back and forth. And I normally will shoot an email and get that blessed in writing. But we will go back and forth on those. The first time home buyer rule applies to everyone except military and active duty.
And why is that?
I say veteran and active duty.
Mm-hmm.
They're just, it's a part of the Hometown Heroes program to serve the military. They are exempt from that program. In fact, talk about qualifying occupations. Let's say I'm a veteran, I'm retired. You still have to work a 40-hour job for brick and mortar in Florida, but it doesn't have to be on their occupation list.
So if you're a veteran, you
Work
could work
anywhere.
in a retail chain as long as you
work
work full-time
anywhere.
or qualify as
As long
well.
as you're full time.
Nice.
Yeah. So those are just some examples of, kind of how Hometown Heroes works. And in terms of the assistance, just to put the number into perspective, like if you were buying a $300,000 house, and let's say you were using FHA financing, you would get 5% of your loan amount. And based on a $300,000 purchase after your down payment, that assistance would be almost $15,000. It would be $14,000, $728.
And you can actually use this down payment assistance for your down payment. And let's say, we go in as an agent and we get a credit for closing costs. Now they could literally have no money really out of pocket.
Correct.
They'd have their escrow deposit, which, 1%, but that's flexible. It could be as low as maybe $1,000
Correct.
on any price.
Yeah.
And then your appraisal and your home inspection.
Right.
Like, those are the things.
When we combine Hometown Heroes and you're able to negotiate a contribution, it's very minimal out of the borrower's pocket, out of the buyer.
I mean, this is an incredible. It's really one of my best favorite down payment assistance programs I've ever seen.
Yeah. So that's basically how it works.
Well, money is replenished again July 13th. Is that what you said?
Yep.
July 13th, 2026. These funds will be available. So if you're hearing this or you know someone that is especially some of these younger folks that have been renting and they want to own their home and they don't think they can, would highly encourage you to tag them in this, share this show, like, subscribe, hit them up on this podcast, or you can call and text us directly on our off-air number, which is 813-377-2775. You can call or text to reach us here at Tampa Home Talk, 813-377-2775. Sarah, thanks for sharing all the details about Hometown Heroes. Sarah's with the mortgage firm, and I'm your host, Katrina Madewell. This is Tampa Home Talk. Love where you live, or we're going to fix it. Welcome home.